Question number 2. This one is another critical reasoning question. Now let's look at the question stem first. Which among the following is the most logical corollary to the above passage? Now the word corollary is mostly used in mathematics. A corollary follows a theorem. Apart from mathematics, it is used in a subjective manner in other areas. Mostly the meaning of corollary is something that can logically follow from the previous statements. So we can take it as a conclusion question. Now let's look at the passage then. It talks about a certain agreement where developed countries would be required to raise more funds over time to help developing countries and strike a balance between their need to adapt to climate change and cut their emissions. Now it also goes on to list 2 or 3 other requirements which the developed countries have to do in order for the developing countries to cut down on their carbon emission and make the world more eco-friendly. I mean, we can infer this much from this passage. Now this one talks about one particular agreement, so our conclusion has to be based on whatever data is given in the passage. Let's look at the options. Option 1 says the agreement is particularly aimed at the least developed countries. Now we can stop here and eliminate this option because the passage doesn't talk about any comparison among the developed countries. It actually talks about the developed countries helping the developing countries. So option A can be eliminated. Option B says collaborative approaches will be enabled by developed countries for facilitation of access to and transfer of technology to developing countries. Now this one is mentioned towards the last part of the passage. It says the agreement also establishes a system of technology transfer for developing countries through a new technology framework for both reduction of their carbon emissions and adaptation programs. So we can say that B follows from the passage. Now option C is developed countries need to honor their commitments on capital, technology and capacity building support. Now the passage talks about carbon emission and the environmental concerns of the developing countries. It doesn't talk about capital building or capacity building. Hence we can eliminate option C. Option D says developed countries should abide by their promises to provide finance, technology development and transfer and capacity building to developing countries. So we can also eliminate D for the same reasons. C and D are very similar. So the right answer for question number 2 is B.